The following program is an OCAmedia community-produced episode of Oregon Life. We would like to thank our sponsors, the Oregon Brooklyn Optimist Club and the Oregon Freemasons. We are proud to have you as our sponsors.
Creative critical thinking and creative problem solving. And when you think about that, because what's cool about art is there's no just one right answer. Some people will say, well, there's no such thing as a wrong answer. I don't know if I buy that, but there can be more than one right answer. And I think art teaches kids to kind of express themselves and to try finding their answer. And I always kind of say, wouldn't you want that in any profession? Wouldn't you want a doctor that's going to be a creative thinking, problem solver? Because especially we just went through a pandemic. What would we be if we were just, counting on, Google to answer or try to figure out the solution? So you got to have all those things happening. It is. And so this one.
What is it about the blue? It's like, it looks royal almost.
Yep.
There's something.
Yeah, it's got a little purple tint to it.
Purple, the
Yep.
blue. Is that the deeper the up here in the?
Yeah, kind of the magical night, the
Yeah.
stars and everything that's going on. Like how the characters just kind of flow out of there. And yeah, you got Mickey Mouse is coming out.
Yeah, all over.
All over,
That's
yep.
a pretty impressive. I imagine if you turned these lights off and just had one little light shining on there, it'd probably glow.
It could. It'd be kind of cool if there was a black light on it. That'd be.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
That'd probably be pretty neat. But
yeah, see what that would illuminate.
Yep.
It's almost you almost feel standing here. I can walk into it.
Yep.
Or swim.
She just did an incredible job, and like I said, probably one of my all-time favorites. One of my all-time favorite kids. They always say teachers aren't supposed to have favorites, but we do. But she was one of them. So Caitlin came here. They did a really interesting story. I think it was on Netflix or something. They did about her family because she was adopted from Russia.
Oh.
And I can't remember what it was on, but
okay.
There was some kind of documentary that had her and her family. So with I guess I was kind of told more that I had talent than I really believed it. I think that's what kind of drew me to being a teacher, is that I actually believe you can be taught. I mean, there's no substitute for natural ability. It's kind of like coaching. You get some exceptional athletes. You can train them, you can work with them to be better. But if they don't have kind of a natural ability, the ceiling's a little bit lower. And so, like with Caitlin, when I got her as a freshman, I knew that she was awesome. And I can name dozens of art students that I've had over the years that kind of just blow you away when you're a freshman, because not only do they show that natural ability, but they love doing it, and then that helps too, because they're always working to get better. And so, I mean, so many times I actually compare art to like a sport, or even like playing an instrument. You got to practice, you got to go at it. Your natural ability only goes so far. You got to take and develop it and work with it. So I think that's the way my life kind of went. So that's what I kind of do with the students to, kind of do that for them as well. It's kind of like, again, like in coaching, there were some incredible athletes that became coaches that weren't very successful. And some of the most successful coaches were ones that were maybe average for ability, but they worked really hard, and they were able then to translate that and teach how to get better. So I look at it a lot that way. And as an art teacher, I think my artwork continues to grow. I hope it continues to grow to the last day I get to move a pencil or a paintbrush, or take a photograph. But all that stuff is all through practice. And even like when I tell the kids that the best way to learn something is by trying to teach it. You know, if you have them do something and then they have to try translating that and figuring out how to show someone else how to do it, they'll learn much more than if you just tell them to do something and do it, because that goes through it's that critical thinking that we were kind of talking about before. How do you put that all together? So it's a pretty cool thing. And so my artwork has definitely grown. I actually have one of my first high school paintings out there that I show the kids on the first day, because I think it's just awful. You know, it doesn't look good, doesn't have proportion, just not well done. And I show them that they'll continue to get better if they work at it and practice it, and to do that. So yeah, I definitely believe that you keep getting better at everything you do as you keep going, whether you're a baker and a painter or whatever you do, filmmaker. You're gonna keep getting better because you pick up something new, you learn something every time. So most definitely. All right, so here I have a couple items that were my dad's. My dad was a telephone repairman in a little small town where I grew up of Randolph, Wisconsin. And he is definitely a huge influence on my life, on how I got really interested in photography and in the outdoors. So my dad worked for a small company. This was his phone that he carried with him. It's a test set, and that would be one that they would hook up on lines. They could climb the telephone poles and hook in and do a little test. And that I ended up receiving after he passed away. The same is true with the camera. So my dad, who really loved the outdoors just like I do, drove around out in the country a lot for the little town that he worked in. And my dad worked for the phone company, and he traveled around quite a bit. And he loved the outdoors, and he would always talk about the cool things that he saw as he drove around out in the country for hours, from deer to fox to ducks, everything that you could think of. Pheasants were one of his favorites. And so one year for Christmas in the mid-'70s, my mom bought him a camera, this one right here. It's a Minolta X370. And she bought him this camera at Kmart in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. And I remember every year at Christmas she would buy him a new accessory for the camera. And so I remember going to the camera counter at Kmart and watching her pick something out. Kind of the ironic thing is we have rolls and rolls of film of blurry pictures and things like that because it's a manual camera and he never really knew how to work it. And so when I went to college and had to take a photography course for my art degree, I took this camera with me, and I actually learned how to operate a manual camera, which is what I use, the basis of all my photography classes that I teach at Oregon High School. And so I took that with me and I learned how to use it with the kind of goal that when I got done with college, I was going to give my dad his camera back, and I was going to teach him how to take pictures with it so that he could do that. He had been working at the phone company for 20 years. Unfortunately, when I graduated from college, my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he passed away within less than a year, almost a year to the day I graduated from college. And I never got the chance to teach him how to use his camera, but I then inherited it. And so this and this telephone test set are two things that definitely remind me of my dad, again, who played such a huge part of my life and kind of who I am. But the test set is really kind of cool. So I had worked for the phone company when I was in college on their construction kind of crew, and I learned how to do a lot of that. And so the test set, these two here, you would hook up to specific colors, and you could actually call in, you could make phone calls. That was why it was called a test set. And so after my dad passed away and I inherited this, I actually threw this in the trunk of my car because back then there was no cell phones and stuff. So I thought it'd be kind of cool that if I ever got stuck in a ditch or anything like that, I could open up a ped and hook up the line and I could call for help. So this was my first kind of original cell phone.